Welcome to the Theater of Magic.
It's Sunny Drive time!
Oh, looks like rain.
Playhouse?
You unlock this door with the key of imagination.
Time to go to work. Let's fire that thing up.
If balls were meant to fly, they'd have wings.
Well, that's like totally rad.
Welcome, race fans, to Bonsai Run!
Hey, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, today is going to be a walkthrough video. It's been over a year since I did the last one. It's now April 2024, and I figured why not update the video here and show the current status of the arcade, which machines we currently have, and go through each one quickly, where they came from, what's been done since we got them, and the current layout of the room. So yeah, as you see, the first thing you notice if you've seen my video from last year is the layout of the room is completely different now. I used to have all the maintenance equipment in here as well, but luckily I was able to move that into another room of the basement, which left me with this pretty giant room here. It's about, I don't know, 6.5 meters by 7.5 meters. You have to figure that out in feet. It's big. Big enough for 17 pins and a couple arcades and all the furniture I have. And there is room for more, but I would have to start losing some things, and I do like the sitting area in the middle here, so I'm going to try to keep it the way it is right now. But yeah, let's start on this side this year. We'll work our way around. So yeah, on the wall here you see I kind of have license plates and stuff like that of collective. Not a huge collection, but I've started to pick up stuff here and there if I could. And yeah, here in the cabinet, I do quite a bit of 3D printing as well. This mechanism here is just 3D printed. These are 3D printed. This lamp down here is actually 3D printed. And this is on Thingiverse. You can find that design. And yeah, it's just got some LEDs up here. And I've done a whole walkthrough video of the Cuphead, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but go back and check it out on the channel if you've not seen this before. This is a complete scratch build machine running Cuphead, which is running off of a MacBook Pro, and it boots right into the game when you turn it on. The controls are all mapped, and the coin door does nothing. It's just there for decoration. There's a control panel here inside of it, and this is all 3D printed, the controls. So yeah, take a look on the channel. There's a nice video that goes over the whole thing, but this is art by Joe Sabazzo, and it's built out of plywood. This is 15 millimeter plywood, about 5/8. And yeah, it was a fun project. I've owned it now, I guess I finished it about 1.5 years ago. This is a topper that I got with Earthshaker, and I didn't know what to do with it at first because toppers don't fit in my room because the ceiling is so low. So I finally made it into a wall art, and I 3D printed an enclosure for it. This is black all the way around. And then it's got LEDs in there, and it just, 12 volt, just switch here on the bottom. This is another 3D printed project I've not talked about, but this is running on an Arduino. The whole thing is 3D printed, the actual enclosure itself. These are obviously pinball lights, and inside here there are 6 MOSFETs being driven by what is it? It's an Arduino Uno, I think, that's in there. And you've got some color changing LEDs here. So it's going through a color change pattern, plus it's cycling the MOSFETs to illuminate the LEDs on the edge. So, well, we got our 2 bar tops here, and I've discussed these in a recent video that I made. I went through both of them and talked about how they were put together and why they were built, right? This is kind of what started me into pinball, really. But these things run really well. They're running on Raspberry Pi 3Bs, running RetroPie. And yeah, they're also scratch built. The artwork is all self-made except for the marquee artwork. I did buy those from a company called Game On Graphics in the States. I have thought about maybe building a base for them and staying them up. You know, having them be, you know, at the same height here as the Cuphead. Maybe put each one on like a 45 degree and have it like the old, what was that? The Nintendo Dual System where you had 2 monitors side by side. I've kind of thought about doing that, but haven't pulled the trigger yet. So anyway, on to the pinball machines. That's what you're here for. Yeah, so the first one we got here in the lineup is the Bonsai Run, which I have had for quite a while, at least 3 years now. I bought this in Antwerp, Belgium from a guy who was the only machine he had. And well, we had to do a full playfield strip down. We had to remove Mylar, we had to rebuild the whole thing. But all in all, it was pretty good shape. The interconnect board had this typical wiring that was burned up from the incandescent bulbs. But beyond that, this machine was in pretty good shape, and I got this thing for a really good price. Nowadays, for what they go for in the States, I probably would not buy this game, but I got super lucky, and the deal kind of fell into my lap, and I ran out there and took a day off from work and actually went and picked this thing up. So yeah, it's great. You know, some people don't like this game. You know, the vertical playfield is almost like a pachinko machine. It's not really pinball, but it's a piece of pinball history, and it was Pat Lawler's first machine. And as you'll see from the other side of the arcade, I have quite a bit of Pat Lawler machines, so I had to have that one. So glad to have it. Radical. Well, Radical was a purchase that I made probably also about 3 years ago, maybe a little less, 2.5. Bought this in Berlin, Germany, from a junk dealer. He had a big warehouse full of crap, and this thing was languishing in there. It was covered with stuff all over it. You couldn't even see the playfield. Thankfully, it hadn't been played in a long time, so when I got it, I had to do some paint touch-ups here and clean everything. These are all original ramps. In this game, I've put some ultraviolet strips here. This is kind of a poor man's stadium lighting. Recently, what I've done with this machine is I've added the vertical up kick. Over the past year, I think last year's video I didn't have this in, but I pulled the playfield out and I cut the hole and I installed this wire form here. And now the ball will drop down behind the snake run targets, fall into the hole, go across on a subway, and then get fired up with a vertical up kick. And that's the way the game was originally designed. And they built some prototypes that were like that, maybe about 100, and then they took it out of the production, probably because of costs. But it really belongs there. So I put this back, and some other collectors have done this to their machines as well. Let's see, the other thing I've done to Radical recently is I added the upper slingshot here, which is also something that was on the prototype games. You can see it right there, right above his helmet. You can see the switches for the slingshot. And, you know, that was in the prototype machines, and then they pulled it out. So, yeah, I threw it back in there. And no permanent modifications are really made, so if you decided that, no, I want it to be original, you can pull that out pretty easy. Yeah, Radical is pretty reliable. It's a fun game. There's so many shots, and the flippers are pretty close together, so I think it's a pretty easy game. And this game also has an updated ROM set in it, which fixes some scoring imbalances that were in the game. There was also some randomness in the scoring, and people didn't really like that, especially for tournaments. So anyway, Radical, terrific, pretty rare machine, only 1,300 made, and happy to have it in the collection. Yeah. Okay, Pinbot. You've heard me talk about Pinbot a lot. It's the second machine I ever bought, and you know, I'm an astronomy geek. You're going to see some stuff on the other side of the arcade that attests to that. But this thing's got the Voyager spacecraft right on the playfield with the solar system. And it's Python Angelo did the art and the game design. Listen to that music. Yeah, man, terrific. Pinbot's classic, you know. So they made Pinbot, they made Bride of Pinbot, and then they made Jackbot, which was the third one. I don't like Bride of Pinbot. And I've almost bought one a couple times and I walked away because I think it's kind of a one-shot game. But Pinbot I really do like. And this game it's pretty difficult, but it is a lot of fun once you learn how to play through it. It's a good tournament game, actually, because it is quite difficult. Yeah, and let's see, F14. Well, F14 we've had for about a year and a half. This game I traded a Firepower for, and the Firepower I only paid like $450 for it. So this was a really smoking deal. But it was typical of your F14s out there where the playfield was a disaster. It had Mylar on it, and the inserts were all lifting. The Mylar was bubbled. You know the drill. Remove everything. Remove the Mylar. Fix all the inserts. Put new insert decals down. Do a whole bunch of paint touch up. All for a game that's really not worth a whole lot of money, but it is a Steve Ritchie game. Maybe I'm gonna get, smashed in the comments for this, but it's not my favorite Steve Ritchie game. As a matter of fact, this is the one game in the collection I would trade right now, if not for my wife. She's like, no, we gotta keep it. My son's in the Navy, and she associates this with the Navy at 14, so, and it actually does play Anchors Away at the end of the game, so yeah, it's really a Navy machine. So for now, it's not going anywhere, but if I could trade it for, if I could empty this slot up for maybe like a Tales of the Arabian Nights, that would be amazing. So yeah, F14, it's not a rare game. There's a ton of them out there, and they're not, super, how should I say? You either like them or you don't. I think a lot of people steer clear of this game, so the prices tend to stay pretty reasonable. And actually, for a first machine for somebody, if they want to get into pinball, this is a System 11, and it's a pretty reliable game, very reliable. It's actually a really good first game, so I'd recommend it. All right, we're moving around the room. Let's see. Yeah, I was in the military, and these are the challenge coins that I collected over the course of 22 years in the Air Force from all over the place. And yeah, the flag I have hanging here. It's being held up with 3D printed brackets, actually. It's just, the way you can use 3D printing is truly, truly amazing. I was building a Galaga and a Pac-Man, and when I ordered the marquees, the guy sent me full-size marquees, and I emailed him back. I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, but you sent me the wrong size. I needed the smaller ones for the bar top. So he's like, oh, don't worry, just keep those and I'll mail out the proper ones. So I had these, and I've got a Pac-Man in the other room too, so I was like, what am I gonna do with this thing? So I kind of built an enclosure here and put some lights in it just to hang it up. And yeah, maybe someday I should like put some T-molding here or something like that. That'd be cool. Yeah, moving down here on the table, we've got what appears to be a Nintendo setup. This actually is a real Nintendo here, but I'm not using it right now. I have this running, which is, it's running a system called Batocera, which is also emulation. And the hardware inside is what's called an Odroid N2 Plus. And this is a 3D printed case. Made to look like an Nintendo NES. So this thing will emulate just about any system you can imagine, and it's really powerful too. It'll run, I think, up to like PlayStation 2 games and Dreamcast. So yeah, it's much more powerful than the Raspberry Pi setups I have in those bar tops. So this thing is a screamer. So here on the end, we have our TX Sector from Gottlieb. So this is a machine I picked up in 2020, pretty much like right after I got hired and moved back to Germany. I rented a moving truck and I went out and bought this game because ever since I had the RoboWar, I wanted a TX Sector. And yeah, this was in pretty good shape. The only thing wrong with this game was that the sound didn't work, and the guy that owned it never heard the music before. So I got a couple $100 off of the price for that, and then a buddy of mine found out that it was the actual, I think it's a 6802 or a 6805 CPU chip that's on the soundboard was the problem. We replaced that. It cost a whole like $4 for a new one, and fixed it. And yeah, this game is very reliable. I've done the ground mods on this. This is a System 80B Gottlieb, so you have to do these ground modifications to the ground wires. But after you do that, this thing is it's legit. Anyway, this has an aftermarket board in it as well. I believe it's from Swimmer Electronics. Yeah, terrific game. I did sell the RoboWar to a buddy of mine. He's in the Netherlands, and sadly he has the RoboWar now, but you know, I don't really miss it. I think TX Sector is a better game. I maybe like the music in RoboWar just as much as TX Sector, but I just the gameplay on TX Sector was a little bit too vanilla for me, and yeah, TX Sector is more interesting. It's a lot more shots. It's a 3-flipper game, and you know, a lot going on. All right. So, and some of the best music in all of pinball, by the way. Best original music. My phone still has the soundtrack from this as the ringtone. It's a terrific machine, terrific game. Okay, this is a new addition. This is actually the newest game I have in the collection now, or the most recent machine that I bought, I should say. Not the newest machine, but this was the last purchase I've made. I sold my Firepower to a pinball club in the Netherlands, out in Eindhoven, and I used the funding to help purchase a No Good Gophers, which is the one of the last Pat Lawler machines that was made at Williams before before Williams shut down the pinball division, before Pinball 2000, right? That they had the was it Attack from Mars and Star Wars Episode 1? I don't have those, but as far as the you know, standard pinball machine, this was one of his last. I think actually Safecracker. Can't remember if Safecracker was before Gophers or after, but anyway, Gophers was one of the last. So I really like this game. I picked this up where it was bought in the Netherlands. Now I remember. It was bought in the Netherlands. It was close to the German border, but it's up above me about an hour and a half. And yeah, it was in like this this father and son were like collecting a bunch of junk, and they had like antique cars and jukeboxes and clocks, and they had a couple pinball machines, and they had this one. It was dirty, and it had been, somebody had begun to shop it, but they never finished it. So like some parts had been replaced, but the playfield was still kind of a mess. So I stripped it all down again and rebuilt it, cleaned everything, LED'd it, and rebuilt the flippers again. Maybe they had already rebuilt them, but I rebuilt them again. Yeah, it had brand new rails on it, and I LED'd the back box area here, and yeah, it looks really good. It does have a standard DMD in it, and this next month I'm going to be getting a color DMD for this thing. I've started to upgrade some of my collection to color displays, but this one I have to go with a color DMD. So yeah, that's going to be coming. But yeah, Gophers is a terrific game. It's I think if you play this game, you have to play it with all the other stuff turned off so you can really hear the call outs, because it's really funny. You get these gophers that pop up underneath the ramps here. And you know, when you look at it, I mean, it looks like Caddyshack, right? I mean, this is like Rodney Dangerfield. I mean, you know, he's even on the playfield down here. So this game came out in '95, which was a number of years after Caddyshack came out. But when I look at this, it just reminds me of Caddyshack. Yeah, it's a terrific game. The scoring in it is not really well balanced, and maybe someday they will try to update the code on this. You know, you can hope, but if they did, it would be a lot better. The scoring is not balanced, so when you get into multi-ball, you can pretty much, in multi-ball, you can score like all the points that you would get in a normal game. So that's the only qualm I have about it, and it's not a popular game for tournaments because of that reason. All right, and this is my Pat Lawler row, by the way. So this is Pat Lawler's last machine, and then we're working our way down all the way to the end. Yeah, the next game in the collection to talk about is Roadshow, and Roadshow has a color display. Just like a couple days ago, I added this, and this is not a color DMD. Twilight Zone has a color DMD in it, which in today's money is about $450. This has what's called a Pin 2 DMD, which is kind of a DIY solution, and it's less than half that. You can get this whole thing set up for about $200. So if you're gonna colorize a machine, that's the way to go. But the color file is made by people, and it's a lot of work to do this. So nobody has actually made a color file for Gophers, which is the reason I've got to go with the Twilight Zone solution in Gophers over here. But at any rate, Roadshow, she's happy now with a color display. And yeah, I bought this one in the States. I bought this in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this was about 2019. And the game is in good shape. I've never disassembled it all the way. I've shopped it. I've like cleaned it and rebuilt the flippers, but I've never had all of this apart. I've had parts of it apart, but never the whole thing. Yeah, recently I had an issue with Red where her jaw wouldn't open properly, and I found it was just gummed up like somebody had put grease in there in the past. And it started to solidify because I hadn't played it in a couple weeks, and her mouth wouldn't move. So take it apart, clean it, and she's fine now. But yeah, some people don't like this game because of the country music theme, but my wife loves this game. This was one of the first games that she ever said to me, hey, that would be a cool game to have, after she played it one time. So that was like an invitation for me to, run out and see where I could find a Roadshow for sale. So yeah, this thing, we like it, and we both play it quite a bit. I've only ever beaten it, I think, twice, where you get all the way to the West Coast and then defeat the Godzilla out here. There's a couple different ways you can progress when you get to the West Coast. But I think you have to complete 9 cities or 10 cities, and then you can get to the West Coast. But yeah, it's a great game. We like it. Okay, Twilight Zone. Yeah, my Twilight Zone is doing pretty good. This was the 4th game I bought, and if I had to get rid of all the pinball machines, this would be the last one I would sell. Yeah, Twilight Zone is, in my eyes, the greatest machine I own because I'm so much in love with the theme. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and my dad introduced me to the old black and white Twilight Zones when I was a kid, and I watched a lot of those episodes. I watched them all now as an adult, and I've always wanted a Twilight Zone, so I was happy to get one. I got this in the Netherlands back in like 2000, maybe 17 or something like that. I bought it from a collector who was thinning out his collection and adding some more machines. And yeah, so this thing's been pretty reliable. Recently, I've had some more issues with the clock again, though. As a matter of fact, just when I turned it on today, it triggered a clock failure error again. So I have to figure this out. This game actually has an upgraded clock board in it, but I think it might be related to a connector for the clock, because the clock always seems to work okay, and I've reset connectors before, and then it worked fine for like a year, and I never had any errors, and then suddenly I start getting the error again. So I probably need to rebuild the connectors or reflow solder somewhere or something like that. I think that's all it is, because it hasn't upgraded. Normally you'll get a clock failure because the original board had incandescent bulbs on it, plus it had bad optos, and the combination of those two problems will give you a lot of problems with the clock board. But this clock board is a new one, so still having the issues. Not sure what's going on with that. All right, I'm moving down the line here. The next game is Funhouse, which was the 3rd machine we bought. And this is way back in 2018, about 6 years ago. Funhouse has been completely restored. The playfield's been done. It's all been shopped and cleaned and rebuilt, and the entire cabinet's been redone too. Brand new rails, brand new artwork. This is screen printed artwork from Phoenix Arcade all the way around. Coin door's been painted. Yeah, everything's been done. And Funhouse is very, very reliable. Not much that I've really had to go wrong with it. I had some broken parts back here behind the trap door that I had to replace, and actually made a couple of the parts myself. Yeah, it's a fun game. You either love it or hate it. Some people are freaked out by the dummy, but I think it was a bold move for Pat Lawler to do such a thing. I mean, I don't remember any machine that ever had anything like this on the playfield, and he was all about these wacky, crazy ideas, and Funhouse is one that just stands out. And he kind of copied the theme here with Roadshow, but he didn't want to bring Rudy back. Rudy was retired, and yeah, they've done an update to this machine. They have this Funhouse 2.0 thing from Pendretti Pinball, but I never got into that too much. I don't really care for it. I know the voice is not. I think the guy's name is Ed Boon that did the voice. So the original voice of Rudy, and yeah, I mean he's not, or he wasn't willing or couldn't do the voice for the new 2.0 system. So it's somebody else. So anyway, there's an upgrade out there, but I didn't do it. I like the original game, and yeah, it's a classic. So all right, Whirlwind. Let's see. Yeah, like you said, my ceiling's so low I couldn't put the topper on Whirlwind, and this stinks because the topper on Whirlwind is like the best part of it. So someday I need to figure something out here, like figure out a way that I can get the topper up here. But anyway, Whirlwind was a game that I grabbed about 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. I went out to buy a diner actually, and the diner was in terrible, terrible shape. And this guy had a ton of machines, and he was selling quite a few of them. So I came away with this, and it's not too bad. The cabinet's got a little bit of color fade on the artwork, but it's not too bad that right now. I mean, I just put it in the lineup. I haven't fooled with it. Maybe someday I'll attack this, but there's other machines that I would want to replace artwork before Whirlwind. It's really not that bad. But I did have to rebuild the thing. The playfield was a mess, so it was all stripped down. A couple touch-ups here and there. There was Mylar on it. I had to remove the Mylar. And I didn't lose any artwork on the inserts. At least, no, wait a minute. This game, I take that back. This game was the one that I lost the artwork. I have pulled Mylar off of quite a few machines, and this game was the only one, now I remember, that I actually lost all the insert decals when I pulled them off. F14 over there I did as well, but F14, I didn't lose all the artwork, but I had it stripped. I had to strip it off because a lot of it was damaged. But this one, it came off with the Mylar. So this is all new insert decals, and then clear coated over that, and then brand new like plastics and stuff. Other than that, good game. Not my favorite game, but a lot of people love Whirlwind. It's a good game for tournaments, I think. And there's a lot of them out there. People do like them. And yeah, it's in the Pat Lawler row here, so we had to have a Whirlwind. Right next to Earthshaker, which was Pat Lawler's second machine. So over there, the Bonsai Run was the first one. This was the second machine he made, the third, the fourth. In between Funhouse and Twilight Zone was Addams Family. My Addams Family is in my house in the States. And then, of course, Roadshow and Gophers. And then Earthshaker, this was a basket case when I got it. It was in a dental laboratory. They were using it in the break room, and nobody knew how to work on it at all. So it was in terrible shape. One of the worst. The playfield is actually in my maintenance storage room next door because it's trashed. The artwork was in really bad shape. This is a brand new playfield from CPR Playfields in Canada. So I had to ship the thing from Canada to my dad's house in the States, and then he had to ship it to me to Germany. So that's how I got it here. But they make terrific, terrific playfields, CPR does. These are also brand new ramps from, I believe, Free Play 40 on Pinside. And yeah, everything basically had to be gone through and replaced and rebuilt. The cabinet was also in terrible, terrible shape. The artwork was in terrible, terrible shape. Well, wait a minute, terrible, maybe that's an overstatement. It was pretty bad, pretty badly worn, and I touched up the artwork, repainted all the blue and all the red, and you can check out my channel. I have a whole restoration series I talk about Earthshaker, because I did a playfield swap actually, obviously, so you can see all that. Yeah, Earthshaker's a great game. Between Whirlwind and Earthshaker, I take Earthshaker every day. Really like this game. It's got this state, assembly up here. California breaks off, and it's actually your diverter. So the thing diverts that way, and then the ball goes in between the gap, and then it falls down here. Yeah, it's a sweet game. There is somebody that on Pinside has created a 3D mod that gets rid of these two plastic plates, and you put a Golden Gate Bridge here. which is pretty slick. I need to order the thing. The guy he'll make some, and then he ends up selling them all, and then I gotta wait for him to make some more. But if I can't get it from him, maybe I'll design it myself and make it on the 3D printer. But it was a cool idea, so I'd like to support him. It looks really slick there. It looks like it really belongs. So yeah, Earthshaker, terrific game. All right, this one's new. Yeah, this is a Theater of Magic, and this is a John Papaduke designed machine, and it also has a color or not a color DMD, but a pin to DMD. So it has the same type of color display that Roadshow has down there, and it's kind of weird. When I bought the Gophers, this display was in Gophers, but it didn't work in Gophers because there's no color file for Gophers. So I realized that, and I ended up just removing it from Gophers, getting the color file for Theater Magic and putting it in Theater Magic. Let's see. Up here we have an alternate Translite, right, from Brian Allen. This is his alternate artwork that he makes for Theater Magic, and I also have the side art here, the art blades here, not the side art, but the art blades, right? That's normally not there, and Brian Allen makes this terrific artwork, so I supported him and got this. I have the original one over in the maintenance room. But this game, oh man, the story goes, I found that this thing was for sale, and the guy was asking nothing for it, like 1/4 what they go for, maybe less. And I texted the guy, and my boss was nice enough to give me a half day off. I'd use a half a day of leave, and I left early at lunchtime, and I went and picked this thing up that day. And I'm glad I did, because he had about 100 offers, you know, a lot of people offering more money for it, but he did give it to me. He sold it to me. I was the first person to respond, and I really got a good deal on this guy. Theater Magic is a terrific machine. It has this trunk assembly that you interact with, and the trunk rotates, and then you can lock the ball by, there's a magnet on the trunk, and it'll hold the ball in midair. There's another magnet here that lifts the ball up off that ramp and diverts it. Oh man, you can get a mod where you can make this saw spin, the Tiger Saw mod. And this game has these beautiful flowing ramps. This is typical of John Papaduke. So this is the guy who did Tales of the Arabian Nights. He did Circus Voltaire. He did World Cup Soccer. He's done these games like this game, and this is the best shooting game I own. It's like butter. The shots are like butter. If you play a game like this, and then you play a really clunky game like TX Sector or Haunted House over here, you come to appreciate the design, because it's not just about throwing stuff on the playfield. To make a really good pinball machine, there's a lot that goes into it, and this game has amazing flow. So you can get the ball flying around the outer orbit, come back, and then flying around the inner orbit and come back, right to the flipper again, and right to the ramp, around, right to the flipper again, to the other ramp. I mean, it's fantastic. And it has a trap door down here, kind of similar to the Gophers, how they pop up on No Good Gophers. This is similar also to Medieval Madness. They have the trolls that pop up. Same deal, same mechanism. Yeah, terrific game. A game that I always thought was out of my price range, and kind of like Tales of the Arabian Nights. It's a game that I'd like to have, but I just never thought that I wanted to spend that much money on a single machine. But this thing fell into my lap, and super lucky to have it. And the side art is it's probably about a 9 out of 10 or an 8.5 out of 10. There's a couple little flaws here and there, but not too bad. Not too bad at all. You know, a small amount of wear, like at the top edge up here, but terrific game, terrific. Okay, over here we got my Twilight Zone TV that I built a couple years ago. This is running a Raspberry Pi in there, and it's looping a video clip that I made, just as some old pieces of the Twilight Zone episodes from the 50s. Like I said, I'm a astronomy geek, and this is a 3D printed Starship model that I've been working on for a while. It's almost as tall as me. I made it way too big. I should have printed it a lot smaller than I did, but it's all held together with magnets, neodymium magnets. This comes off, but I'm not going to do it now. The tower assembly was a lot of printing, as you can imagine. All right, back to pinball. So we're almost there. High Speed, yes sir. High Speed was my first machine I ever bought back in 2018 in August, and traded a couple bar top arcades for it that I'd built. And yeah, this thing has been refurbished. It's got a brand new hard top playfield on it, and these are not original. These are this one is bought off of eBay. They're both bought off of eBay. This is just a car, and then this police car I put LEDs in it, right, and an Arduino. So when the thing goes into multi-ball and the beacon light comes on, we might see it come on during a track mode here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But when the beacon comes on for multi-ball, the Arduino inside the cop car gets powered, and then the lights inside the light bar and the tail lights and the headlights all come on. And that's all done with an Arduino, I think it was an Arduino Nano that's in there. And that's just running on 5 volts. So you might see it here in a minute. Yeah, but this game, and this up here, this stoplight is also 3D printed. This is different from the original, which was a black one and it was horizontal. It's 3D printed that thing. High Speed's a great game, and obviously they have a newer version called the Getaway, High Speed 2. I don't have that machine. I do like it. Yeah, there you go. Got to see the lights come on there on the police car. I like the Getaway, but you know, it's just there's only so much room, there's only so much money, and High Speed holds a special place in my heart because it was the first machine. So I'm gonna hold on to it, and you know, it is also a fantastic machine. It's got really good flow, and people like it. The cabinet is in really good shape on this machine. Hardly any damage at all. I don't think I've ever repainted this thing. I think this is all original. And yeah, High Speed's running like a champ. Running like a champ. All right, Haunted House. Haunted House, man. Whew. This was a lot of work. A lot of work. I got this thing in Haarlem, Netherlands. There you go. There's the attract sound. That was good timing. Yeah, I bought this in Haarlem, Netherlands. It was in a house that a guy had bought, and it was in the basement broken when he bought the house. The last people that moved out, they didn't want to take it with them. Crazy, right? So he didn't do anything with it. He couldn't fix it. He didn't know even how to start, and it sat there for 10 years, and then I came and bought it. And it didn't work, and the playfield had a bunch of wear, and it had been played in 10 years, but the good news is it hadn't been played in 10 years, so the wear didn't get any worse. So I had to go through everything, and yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of work. I think I did a whole restore on this as well. Rebuilt all 8 flippers. There's 3 playfields here, 2 flippers down there, 4 flippers here, 2 flippers up there, 4 pop bumpers, you know, drop target banks everywhere. Just so much. There's a bunch of relays here that switch things between the playfields. It's got 2 sets of flipper buttons, one for the lower playfields, one for the upper playfield. It's funny to watch people play this the first time and they don't realize that, and then they lose the ball. But yeah, this is a wide body Gottlieb System 80 game. And I used to have a black hole as well, which was the American version. And I sold that to buy the TNA. I had to sell 2 machines to purchase Total Nuclear Annihilation. So sadly, we don't have black hole anymore, but we do still have Haunted House, and I definitely think it's the better of the 2 machines. And yeah, this has got a terrific, like, 3-dimensional effect, because there's like a white card in here, and then there's a bunch of LEDs in there. I've got some fire bulbs, blue fire bulb and red fire bulb up there, and then a fire bulb behind the Raven's eye. And yeah, this game's great. This is 3D printed, the Raven is. It's kind of hard to see in the dark. The tombstone here is also 3D printed, and I bought that from the thrift store for a couple bucks. But maybe someday I'll do something different up here with some lights. But Haunted House is a great game, but I would not recommend it as like your first game because it is very difficult to keep running. At least mine is. This game also almost killed me when I bought it because, long story short, if you have one of these in Europe, you can electrocute yourself because they came from America. And there's some wiring concerns here. There's some wiring issues you got to be really aware of. And this company, Mondial, that imported these things should have fixed this, but they didn't. So it was possible to have this thing plugged in, turned off, but there's still high voltage under the playfield, which in my mind is really dangerous. But yeah, it's a great game, and never leaving my collection, I hope. So, alrighty, we're getting there. We got a couple more. Here we got a 1980 or 79 or 80 Stern 9-ball. Also a fantastic machine. This is a solid state machine from the early era of Sterns. Steve Kirk is the guy that designed this game. He did Meteor, he did 9-ball. What else? What were the other ones he did? Man, I can't remember them right now. But great tournament game, very fast, pretty difficult. I play in some pinball tournaments in the Netherlands, and a lot of times this machine shows up. And inevitably, I always think like, oh, I'm going to do better because it's a game I actually own in my collection. Wrong. They all play different, and even though I own it, it doesn't give me an advantage in a tournament because theirs either plays slower or faster or is just set up differently or, whatever. But this game, new back glass, new playfield, new plastics, everything new. Yeah, so there's the other company in Canada, but I worked with the one here in Germany and got this thing reproduced. So he ended up giving me this playfield for free. But it was a ton of work because I had to do a playfield swap. But the original playfield's in pretty good shape. I actually still have it. It's actually being used over here as my coffee table. So you can check that out. But yeah, 9-ball is a great machine. I wanted to have a variety of machines in my collection. I didn't just want a bunch of Sterns. I'm sorry, but I see like collections of some people and it's a wall of brand new Sterns. It's just nice to have a variety in your collection instead of like the typical boring, row of Stern machines that, yeah, whatever, I'll get off my soapbox. The artwork is amazing, right? I mean, look at its back glass. Look at that back glass. If anybody knows how to make that into a SVG file, I want to get this on a t-shirt. Really want that. All right, finishing up. TNA Collector's Edition, machine number 1 in the collection, right? How does this happen? Well, it's good to have nice friends. A buddy of mine, we both ordered a collector's edition when we heard they were reproducing these things. And it took us a couple months, maybe about 4 or 5 months to get our machines. And when they both showed up, he gave me the honor of having machine number 1, and he took the other one. And he just lives right down the street, so we're really good friends. But this thing, yeah, it had some problems when I got it. You can see that in previous videos I've talked about it. But I was able to work through those. And since then, I checked the other day, I have 750 games so far on the machine. I've owned it for about a year and a half or something like that. And from time to time, I'll have some LEDs flake out. And the big problem is this game has a subwoofer in it and it has a shaker motor. And there's a lot of boards here that control the lights that you're seeing and all of the solenoids. And all of these boards have ribbon cables going to them, which are held in place by a drop of hot glue. And some of them, they missed a hot glue and the ribbon cables would fall out or kind of fall out crooked. When you pay as much as you did for a machine like this, it's really, terrible to see hot glue being used to hold connectors on, but that's a different story. But TNA, man, it's one of the greatest machines out there. It's so different. Like the music in this machine, it's done by Scott Denisi. He was the primary programmer here. He worked with Spooky Pinball. They created, he homebrewed this thing himself, wrote all the code, obviously did the music. Yeah, the gameplay is fantastic. I mean, when I had people over and they realize how cool this game is, it just gets played again and again and again all night. You're trying to progress through reactors, and Yeah, it's fantastic. It's got this hooked on pinball EL tape or EL panel that's in here behind the rails. Lights that up. That's not stock, but yeah, I added that shortly after I bought the machine. So that is the newest machine we own. That's from 2022. And this is the oldest machine we own. This is from 1976, from July of 1976. And yeah, this is a Gottlieb Royal Flush electromechanical machine. And I got this from a guy who lived just about 40 minutes away. It was like the closest pickup I've ever had. And he only had this one machine. It was in like he had like a man cave with like motorcycles, and the guy had money, right? And it was a really cool place he had. But he had this one machine there, and it wasn't really in the greatest of shape. It was missing the chime box. First time in a long time this guy's had some chimes in it. There was a spider for the player unit, a phenolic piece that was broken in half, and I didn't realize it when I bought the machine. And then I had a hard time getting a replacement. I had to actually make the replacement part myself, but I was able to get it done and stripped and rebuilt the playfield with all new drop targets, rebuilt the original, rebuilt the flippers with original parts here for the EM, and for a 1976 machine, you might think that a lot of people wouldn't play this thing, right? No, this thing gets a lot of play, and I've had pinball parties recently where some people have stayed on this machine the entire night. It's a very difficult machine. These outlanes are enormous, and the flipper gap here is enormous, so it's not an easy game by any means. And my high score, I think, is somewhere around 80,000, something like that. I've not rolled it yet, so hopefully I need to play it more. Yeah, I didn't do anything to the cabinet. I left the cabinet as is. It's got some dings and wear, and I love it. I love the patina of the cabinet the way it is. This thing has a play meter inside of it, and it showed that it had over 200,000 plays when I bought it. And I totally believe it based on, you know, how difficult it is that it got that much play. Yeah, it's a terrific game. You know, when I go to play pinball, I don't stay on EMs too much because most of them are a little bit too slow and not really interesting. But this one is pretty interesting because you have a couple different ways of building scores, and depending on which drop targets you hit here, you get certain hands, and then if you are on your last ball, you'll get a double bonus. If you hit the jokers down here first, then your drop targets are worth more. So there's strategy here to think about how to play this game. And yeah, terrific EM, and I'm glad to have an EM in the collection. For a while, I didn't think I was ever going to have an EM, and then this one, you know, this and Card Whiz, and there's a couple more EMs out there that I probably went for, but this one showed up fairly close, and I went out and grabbed it. And was thinking, yeah, am I going to regret this? But nope, love it. And I still play it a lot. And recently I've been playing a lot. I'm really trying to roll this thing. I'm really trying to get more than 100,000, but I just can't get there, man. Can't get there. All right, we are pretty much done. We got some other signs here. This is an original metal reflective fallout shelter sign. These were made by the Department of Defense, and I got a bunch of these at an estate sale, I think is where we got them from. And I've sold a couple of them on Pinside to other friends I've had, and yeah, another sign here, got it at a German flea market. So that's yeah, that's it. That's pretty much the tour of the arcade. I hope you enjoy that. I know it was quite long, but I wanted to kind of go through everything and let you see the situation, how it all looks. And yeah, you can see my coffee table here is set up with that 9-ball playfield, and it works pretty well. You got some 3D printed parts on the corners here to hold the playfield up. So yeah, there you go. Walkthrough video done for 2024. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing to my channel. Thanks for supporting me and watching my my antics with pinball. It's, you know, this video channel here is it was really just to kind of share with other people. And, you know, it all started with this, and this thing was broken when I bought it. So don't be afraid to buy a broken machine, because learning with one broken machine, I had no idea what I was doing. And I learned step by step, part by part, area by area. And now it turned into, 18 machines, including the Addams family. So there you go. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and be on the lookout for the next game in the collection. I think I'll be going over F14 here shortly, as soon as I get some time to put that on my schedule. But yeah, thanks a lot. Take it easy, guys.